I know everyone's wondering what I got in my bag. It's a whole bunch of money. I can't let it be in the bag. I'm joking. That was Aretha. I'm not there yet.
That's very old.
When I get that Aretha money, though, I'm gonna do that.
That's old school.
No, I keep it like that
bringing
because
the
I got
purse
my
on
insulin
stage,
in there.
Yeah.
And on the road, I can't be without my insulin.
Wow. I didn't know
Somebody
that.
takes that, I'm in trouble.
Wow. How long have you been doing that?
Ever since I became diabetic in 27. That was just yesterday.
At 27? That was just yesterday, yeah. Wow, well, you look great. So good to see you. I'm hoping all that stuff makes you feel good and feel healthy.
I feel so good.
Oh, good.
I feel healthier than I ever have.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've been busy since we last saw each other. I suppose a pandemic helps with your career as a writer because you got time to think about writing, or were you doing that all along?
Wow. Well, it really just started when my father passed. I started to hear, when I hear voices that tell me songs, they sing, but I started to hear spoken word when he passed. So I started writing these poems, and I ended up getting a huge stack of them. And a friend of mine said, well, what are you doing with those? And she said, you need to put together a book. So I did.
And it was published.
Oh, yeah.
And it came out in 2021.
Yeah, it's so surreal to be touring and walk into Barnes & Noble to get some book of another writer and be like, oh my God,
There's your book. Yeah. It's really cool. And you know what's also cool about it is that it's kind of, it's analog. It's analog, right? It's old school analog media making.
It is.
You know, it's not a meme. It's not on TikTok. It's a book you made, and it's out there in the bookstores.
Yeah.
And then you wrote another one.
Once I got started, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a few years ago, actually, many years ago, and I went to a psychic, and she said, oh, you're going to write a book. And I was like, what? No way. And she was like, you're actually going to write 2 or 3 books. And I was like, no, I'm a songwriter. You got it wrong. And I guess she was right. I should start paying more attention to what they tell me.
Was that the only time you ever went to a psychic?
Oh, no. I've been a few times.
Yeah? Did you get some other good messages?
Ooh, yeah. I should have listened to the one that told me about my first husband.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, you're going to meet a man from a faraway land. And these girls, I was at a music festival in Covington, Tennessee, and these girls were like, you got to come over here after your show and get a reading from this little old lady. She's so dead on. I was in tears after. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go. I don't know if I want to know. And she told me that I was going to meet a man from a faraway land, and blah, blah, blah. And she said it would probably not be good. And I was like, oh my God. But you know, when you fall in love, you got to do what your heart tells you. Just let it beat you up sideways and toss you over and all this stuff. So I let it do what it had to do, and I came out like, bam! A strong woman. Strong.
You got to make the mistakes yourself and learn the lessons yourself. That's just the way you're wired.
Exactly.
You're not going to take any advice. Although you've had some... I want to ask you about one of your books. Your first book was dedicated to a woman, Mary A. Burns. Who was that?
One of my best friends, dearest and best friends, and very supportive friend in music. She owned a coffee shop in Memphis, Tennessee, where they had an open mic, and I got my first live performances in front of crowds there, and knew that this is what I want to do because my tip jar would get full.
Yeah.
So it's really, really wonderful. She also was a poet, and before she passed, she said, you're a poet. And I was like, I don't know how to take that coming from her, you know, because she was the poet, I was the songwriter, you know. So for her to say that, I was like, okay. So I dedicated the book to her.
That's great. And were you doing other jobs during that time when you were first getting started playing in Memphis? And do you have other gigs?
A lot. So I cleaned houses for 7 years. So I'm a professional domestic artist.
Wow.
Yes, I would go into people's homes and do spirit work, honestly, because as I was dusting, I would be doing mantras and putting positive energy into their space. So when they came home, not only was the toilet clean, but they had a high vibration because the witch was just up in there.
Wow. Wow. If we were all to come over to your house now, would it be pretty clean?
It would be pretty clean. I'm kind of messy, but I'm clean.
Yeah, okay.
You know, there's just like piles of paper and crystals and shoes and clothes and stuff everywhere. But, you know, you're not going to find no mildew or stuff like that. So
Well, I want to talk. Your next book is called Light Beams, a workbook for being your badass self. So, what's keeping all of us from being our best badass selves?
Wow. I think we know what's keeping us. It's just a matter of taking the time to create practices. And I call it a workbook because it's really a book of practices that help keep us in tune with our higher being and with our higher self and our greater consciousness and our sweetness and our kindness. It takes work. We can't just wake up in the morning and go out there thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to shine. No, shining is a practice. And what do? How do we commune with nature and with all that is to be able to be the sweetest self? Because we have so many things coming at us all day, every day, mostly through the news or sometimes in traffic. Folks cut us off. It's like, get that, you want to yell at them or whatever, but like, what's the practice that you have that works best for you? Some people need to go play pickleball. Other people need to go do ancient tree therapy or some of the rose petal ceremonies or things I have in the book. So each person, kind of similar to Maps for the Modern World, knows that practice to shine, to be the brightest light beam. And that's really our only purpose in life, you know?
It's cool because it's about, it's a kind of intangible ambition, and you're giving people the tools step by step, page by page, little sections of things to lean on, things to practice, things to work on. And, it comes across that you're a mentor and that you're a teacher and in some ways helping, guide the way for people who are needing some guidance. And it takes a certain amount of confidence. I'm just wondering about who are those mentors or elders who helped inform you on your path.
There are so many, and in the back of the book, Light Beams, I got to the end of writing that book, and I was like, you know what? I can't close this book without writing down my guides and my teachers. And there's over 100 guides and teachers, from writers to musicians to philosophers and politicians, different people who have inspired me, because we find our paths not alone, but from our ancestors, from the babies that are being born, from the stones, from the sticks, from the stars. I was just at this lovely ranch in Tecate, Mexico, and I did a full moon ritual because we just passed the strawberry moon, and the moon told me that I'm a keeper, and I didn't know what I was a keeper of. But I said, well, you got to give me more than that. And instead, you're a keeper of dreams, and a white owl flew over my head. And I was just like, okay, I'm a keeper of dreams. And then I started to think, what kind of dreams? And I think dreams for humanity, like Dr. King's dream, dreams for sweetness for the entire planet. We can hold space for that in our lives. So I think that's what the book is trying to do.
Yeah. I think I have to listen to the moon a little more.
Oh, yeah. You better go out there and talk to her, sing with her, get down with the moon. Dance with her, bathe in her.
I'll do it. Was Mavis one of the people listed in the back of your book who's a shining light or a guide for you in some way, Mavis Staples?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Biggest shining light, especially musically. I remember the first time I heard the Staples Singers. It was on a car trip, and my father put it on, and I just was like, oh my God, what is that? But Mavis is such, like, having met her in my lifetime, she is a ball of joy, and she is positive. And I, wrote a song for her called High Note. She asked me for some songs, and I said, well, what do these songs need to be like? She said, they need to be positive. I promised Pops that I would only sing positive songs. And so I said, well, dang, I ain't got no positive songs. I got like over 100 songs, and they all about how this went bad and that went bad. And then I was like, wait a minute, Mavis was my mentor who attuned me to positivity in music and how it can touch all, you know?
It was such an honor for us to have Pop Staples on eTown a couple of times. And Mavis used to complain and say, how come you're having my dad on the show and you're not having me? And so we've been lucky enough to have Mavis on the show a bunch of times too. Such an amazing family story of letting spirit guide their decision making. It wasn't rational for him to bundle up his kids and drive for 10, 12 hours every Friday to go down south and sing with Dr. King when they were still in school. That didn't make any sense, but that's what they chose to do. And it set them on a path.
It did. And it was dangerous sometimes. She tells stories about it. And, I have a song coming out that's going to be dedicated to Mavis, or has been dedicated to Mavis, as she's now going to be 85, and this is her 85th year. And so the song was recorded in Memphis, which that's where Stax Music is, and they built an academy there. Memphis is a very hard city in some ways. People don't see the light and the beauty that's there. And so having this academy just lifts the community, and it's all because of people like Mavis, Carla Thomas, Booker T, that positive light is in the community. So some of the students from the school who follow in the footsteps of Mavis, like me, they are my backing band.
Oh, cool.
It's full circle, and Carla Thomas is singing on the song Friendship.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
So it's a positive song.
Yeah, it is.
And it's kind of a homecoming for you. To come full circle back to Memphis where you got your start.
Exactly, full circle.
And then, so if people want to find these books of yours, just like your music, it's best to find it on your website. Is that right? Or what's the best way to get access to all this cool creative stuff you've been doing?
The best way that supports me directly is through my website or my shows, but any way you can, I'll take it.
Yeah. And again, I just feel like it's so easy to be overwhelmed. It's so easy to fall into this trap of feeling like things are not hopeful. And so I really appreciated both your poetry and your workbook that have these very specific pathways to positivity through the filter of your joy and your special spirit, which is pretty cool. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's
Nick.
worth checking out. The books again one is called
Maps for the Modern World.
Maps for the Modern World is a poetry book, yeah. And then
Light Beams, a workbook for being your self. Be better self. We'll use that word because I don't know if I can say the other word. Your badass self.
There you go. You can say that. All right. Well, listen, let's get back to music. Thanks so much. Welcome back, if you would, Valerie June.
Thank you.